So where should we start? Why don't you tell me about being a cop and your time in West Center City? Sound good?
All right, well, grab some popcorn and a Xanax, because you'll need it. One of the most violent and impoverished 36 and a half square blocks in Delaware. There's lots of, formal and informal names for it. But from day one, cops would call it the shithole. No one wanted to work here because it is, and continues to be, unfortunately, one of the most violent and impoverished 36 and a half square blocks in Delaware. So it was always a place of just great pain and despair and death. But really what even lied behind that was a more difficult truth. I knew that everything that had been done here in the past hadn't worked. And I knew that for a fact. Because I had lived it, I was a part of it.
I think that when people give you an opportunity to hear their story, you have to be willing to do something with the story.
The only time you see police is when somebody call them or when they riding around harassing people. That's it. I've seen it too many times.
Man, they don't care about us. They hurting us right now.
They wouldn't have to suit up the way they do coming into the neighborhood if they just, if they would just take the time, get to know the people, talk to them. It would go so much better.
I'm standing here too long. And see, this is not a communist country, it's a free country.
If you would have asked me when I first started that assignment, what would have been my biggest obstacle? Well, it would have been the community. That obstacle was actually from my own profession and from my own boss. But at the end of each week, I had nothing to show for it on paper. 0 arrests, 0 warrants served, 0 seizures. On paper, it was a failure. And I don't think I was ever able to get beyond that very kind of simplistic view of policing. Why isn't Dan arresting anybody? When you challenge law enforcement, they don't sit idly by and say, okay, now they attack you like a virus. And that's what they did. The chief hated it.
But in so many ways, Dan's story is one of listening. I think in some ways, police, law enforcement, the streets are like their congregation. They're there to listen. They're there to learn and to love and to serve, to lead that place in a certain way, but to listen and love and to serve them.
There's so much good out here. There's so much good in people. But I think people are just so sick and tired of seeing what they see.
You have to have something in your heart. You have to love people. You actually have to want to help make communities better. What can you do? What can I do as an officer to make this community better? You have to have that in you. And if you don't have it in you, it's just like going to work, punching the clock, doing whatever and getting a paycheck at the end of the week. That's it.
Leaving them was the worst thing. It was the feeling of deserting somebody you love and feeling abandoned and feeling alone.
One love.
You're angry, you're confused, you're still upset about losing this job and leaving this job and leaving this community. So, you talk of reconciliation. I don't know if there is any. I just know that what happened here was real. what happened here was powerful and meaningful to my life, and it seems like it was meaningful to other people. And I think I helped. Law enforcement, at its essence, is really about taking, right? It's about taking property through search and seizure, just through taking freedom through arrest and detentions. It's through taking life at times. Rarely is it about giving. Rarely is it about listening. Rarely is it about empathy. And one of the very first moments in experiences in West Center City was about really having to force myself to listen, because that's not what police do well. We're not trained to do that. We're trained to come in and occupy, take over, control, and move on. And so it was this experience and all of these moments of really having to force myself just to shut up and listen and understand how meaningful that was and how that offers dignity and equality to the person that you're talking to. You can't have a conversation if one person is just driving it and saying, even if I want to help or I'm here to do this. So there is a dignity to that you're offering the other person, that you're saying, yes, this is me, and I want to hear, and I want to listen, and I want you to be an equal part of this conversation. So, listening is this most natural tool and free tool that we all have, and especially in law enforcement. But it's the least utilized.
You got out the car and dealt and talked to the people where other officers, all they want to do is lock you out.
By listening, you allow yourself and you allow the other person to share some of themselves, to share who they are, but also to share how to help them. And it was this kind of like a light bulb moment. It's like, oh my God, they'll actually share with you what they need instead of you just, what government does is just jamming, hey, we're going to help you and we're just going to jam it down your throat.
Always hear somebody say, here come the police, and you'll see it for yourself how people will scatter. They'll start walking off. Nobody wants to engage with the police.
The police have a problem. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to engage in conversations to find out anything. Their mentality is to, I think, shoot first and ask questions later. From my understanding, from the stories my parents have told me, nothing has changed with the police, even when they were coming up. When I was born in the 70s, you still had racist cops. You still had the police that just, don't care. Every black person is not bad. They're not. People struggle for different reasons. Everybody has their own opinion about certain communities, certain areas where you live. A lot of people think they live that way because they want to. But sometimes you don't have a choice. It's consequences for doing things that you know are wrong. It is. So we have to take responsibility too. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. I tell people, if you don't want the police in your face, if you don't want to go to jail, don't do anything to go to jail.
In 2006, and maybe 2005, I went through a really bad divorce. And the outcome of that divorce landed me to be addicted to cocaine. So in a matter of less than a year, I went from a homeowner, a provider, a husband, and a father to someone that basically was hooked on cocaine. And it took me less than a year to lose everything that I had worked hard for. I had a CDL license. I was driving for Newark Concrete at the time. I was a volunteer firefighter for almost 15 years. I went through my savings account. I started my addiction. My monkey was on my back full time, and I was willing to do whatever it took to feed it. So I committed a robbery. I robbed a Burger King on DuPont Highway with a knife. The end result of that was me being in jail for almost 13 years. Today, I work for the Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health. I drive an RV that sits out front of Gander Hill Prison, and I try to do to them what was done for me. I try to give people the opportunity, if they're willing to take those steps, to do something different in their life, and show them that if you're patient and you give yourself a chance, that things are possible for us. Being a convicted felon, to me, for me, it's just a word, because I have surrounded myself today with people that actually care about Tyrone. You know, when my phone rings, people are checking on me to see how I'm doing. Ty, I'm just checking to see, are you okay? Is there anything we can do for you? Compared to when it was ringing before, where's the drugs, where's the party, what are we doing tonight? Every day I struggle with addiction. Every day, today I'm clean. You know I'm so afraid to go back to jail. There is nothing I won't do to walk that straight line. And I love the life that I have, that I provided for myself. I have a brand new car. I just moved into my brand new apartment, and I've been there for about 4 rent payments. That's what I count, how long I've been there. And life has been good for me.
For the year and a half plus I worked here,
Yes.
I never locked anybody up. And I know, yo, bro, what's going on today?
See?
How you doing, man? Yeah, we gotta catch up, man. I miss you. You come out. I'm gonna be hanging around if you want to hang out.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That right there. See the
Yeah.
respect, the level of respect.
Cool,
Listen.
man. So look, here's a guy who I tell the story when I say I've never locked anyone up,
Yes,
right? When I say,
yes.
and I never told anyone what to do or what not to do. The outside world don't understand it, and so I'd say the gentleman who and I'm talking about you. I would never use your name, but I say the gentleman, like I didn't have to tell the guys who were maybe drinking a beer,
Right.
And I'm happy.
Respect.
They never drank beer in front of me.
No.
Ever.
Like,
Did I ever tell you not to?
No, I can vouch
Never.
for that. Like I told you, it was more of I think it was such a level of respect to see an officer, a lieutenant in our neighborhood. Didn't I just say up there when he was in the house, the respect was there for you. You respected us to come into the community and try to help solve. You done did so much, you and your wife and family. You know what you done did with the neighbors here? I have seen you. Come on now. You and your wife, the kids, all summer. Come on. Y'all been here. Your kids are so beautiful because when I seen them playing and the other kids helping out with the kids, it was like they weren't better than them. They didn't come off like that to me, your family. You know what I mean? They came in with a pure heart. They had every time, all summer long, it was events here. All summer long, y'all was here.
I'm like you.
You know what I mean?
They
So
need to get into
it was
the
the level of respect that the community gave you. Like I said up there, and when you up there, it was no drug selling. So you didn't have to lock no one up or arrest nobody because they gave you that respect. They said if this man is able enough to come stand in this hood and talk to us and try to show us different ways, we gonna respect him as well.
The very first place I wanted to go to was the 400 block of Monroe Street, or 5th and Monroe, essentially. It was the first place I wanted to go to. And I wanted to go there because what that place, space, intersection meant to me was everything wrong with communities, was everything that I thought was wrong with this community. It checked every box, you know, with poverty and abandoned homes and drug use and violence and just all of the things that just it was void, the way I saw it, void of life and hope. And so I walked to 5th and Monroe, walking into this historically black neighborhood and historically and rightfully adversarial against the police department and angry with police. As soon as I walked up to that intersection, of course, this block is always hopping. There's probably 30, 40, if not more people. The entire block got quiet and stopped. And I'm not embellishing like any of it. It literally just stopped and they looked at me. And then they kind of quietly started talking amongst themselves. And finally a woman comes up kind of slowly and she goes, "Is everything okay?" Yeah, everything's good. She goes, "Oh, okay," and walks back into the group. But everyone's still quiet. No one's even like moving. And a few minutes later, she walks back and she goes, "So what are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, I'm Dan Seligman. I just got assigned to West Center City. So I'm just here to, you know, see if I can support and be a part of the community." "Oh," she goes, "Oh, okay." Yeah, walks back. A few minutes later, 2 or 3 of them, including her, come up and they're like, "So what are you doing here?" So you got to know, up until this point, if they saw, especially and they called me white shirt before they knew me for a few weeks. If they saw a white shirt, especially out of his car or her car, that means someone was dead. That means you were there because of a homicide. So then 3 or so came up to me and they started talking to me. And I, again, was just trying to say, I'm just assigned here. And I again, intentionally didn't want to say, I'm here to fix the crime problem and the gun problem, all of that. And I wanted to do more listening than I did talking. And so they were talking to me. And as they were talking to me, my line of vision continued to kind of focus on this house that was in the middle of the block. And it wasn't to be disrespectful because I was trying to, you know, have this conversation and talk, but I kept getting drawn to this house. And this house, I knew. It was partially boarded up, and it had looked like it had just been in a fire, and it had been in a fire about 2 years or 3 years earlier. And I had been in this fire. I had gone to the scene actually, and there was, it was terrible, and the memory of it is something that was, I'll forever have with me. There were several children that were killed in this fire. And I, eventually I kind of stopped the conversation. I said, "Excuse me for saying," I said, "but does that house bother anyone? Because I keep focusing on it, and there's something about it." And the group that had now grown to about 4 or 5 all said, "Yes, it's horrible." And they started sharing their experiences about this fire and the family that lived there. And at that moment, they ushered me into the block. And we all, again, certainly not planned or any, but we all sort of created this semicircle around this house. And it really looked like the fire had just happened the day before. There's still burn marks and all on the house. And everyone started sharing their experience with that day and what happened. One of the gentlemen who was there was the guy who ran in, who actually ended up saving one of the kids, but also felt terrible because he couldn't save the other children. So after we all shared this kind of memorial service to some extent, I said to them, I said, "Would it be okay if I had the city come out and board this up properly?" And they said yes. And I could feel that pain that this was causing this block. It literally was this open wound that was palpable. They felt that this was their burden to bear, like that this was almost a curse on the block, a way that the city, that government, that everyone else was, that disrespected the life that had been lost here.
My name's Pastor Nate Keeler, and I'm pastor at Brandywine Valley Baptist Church in Wilmington. I think that's one of the things we notice about Dan. The first thing he asks is, hey, do you want to come for a walk with me and get to know the street? He would notice things like lights out on the street. He'd notice things like overflowing garbage cans. Say, how come, do you guys have enough garbage cans? Doesn't look like you have enough. Yeah, actually we don't. They don't get picked up enough. Okay, well, let's see if we can fix that problem. Hey, there's a burned out house here. This is a problem. It's a problem not just because there might be people, you know, going and messing with those houses, but because it has something to do with human dignity. If on your street there's 3 houses that are burned out, and you're growing up as a kid, and that's what you see, it does something to your spirit. And I think for Dan, he was about the human condition. He's always been about. We all have an inherent dignity and value and worth, no matter where you came from, no matter what your upbringing. We all deserve to have that human dignity restored. And I think Dan was all about restoring human dignity.
You know, I think that we all could use a stranger in our life, whether it's a cop or a stranger. You know, we all see most of the time the good in someone that doesn't see it in themselves. I don't know what I would be doing right now if it were not for Lieutenant Dan coming into my life. He started the ball rolling on me being here right now. You know, when I moved into my apartment, he was the first one in it. I had no furniture. I called Dan up. Dan gives me a phone number to somebody, and the next day I'm picking up a couch. My apartment was through Dan's friends. You know, and you're talking about a cop that listened. You know, you're a cop, but you're listening. If you're my cop on my street and if you know me, it's because you listened. If you pass by something, you say, oh, didn't Tyrone just tell me he needed that? You know, you wouldn't know that if you're a cop 24/7 going by your handbook. And I believe that they can do both. You can do both because you go home and I know whoever you're with, whether it's your wife, your husband, your kids, you're not acting that way to them. I'm not telling you to treat the public like your family, but treat them with the respect that you want treated when you're walking without your uniform on.
He helped everybody around here, like everybody in this hood, like he helped out. He helped out, and he's still doing it now to this day. He helps out real good, man. He's a good dude. He's really a good dude.
There were people trying to figure me out, and there were, and even other cops, like, what exactly is he doing? What is he up to? I didn't quite know. But like, so for instance, like, you know, day 2 or day 3, there was a guy that came out, a resident came out, and he's on a sewer cover. And he's going back and forth on the sewer cover. It's clearly loose, right? And he's just looking at me, and he's like this on the sewer cover. And so I walk up to him, hey, what's going on? He goes, it's loose. And so now my first reaction would have been, and probably should have been in any other part of my career, like, you're worried about a loose manhole cover? Have you noticed all of the other crap that's going on here? But because I had this experience with the house, I shut up, and there was this pause of me kind of, the wheels were turning, and I said, oh, he's testing me. This is something that is a concern for him. And I said, well, how about I get Public Works out here to come out and fix it? He goes, yes, would you please? Because this is, dangerous. There's kids that come over it. And that experience to me was, it opened my eyes a little bit wider that, oh, there's things that would concern us in my neighborhood, and this is what concerns him. Again, it's not what I would have ever thought of that they're thinking of, but he was worried because the kids walk over this thing.
just me. There was nothing.
Probably one of the
else.
first things Dan ever said to me was he was there to protect and to serve. And so for him, he took that seriously. That wasn't just to arrest people and put people in jail. And he was there to protect. That means if you're cold and you need a sweater, you need a coat, that's how I can protect you. You know, it means if you don't have diapers, you need diapers for your kids. That's the way I can serve you. Dan and I would walk streets, and Dan would say this. He said, "Now you probably already have some preconceived ideas of what the people on the street need. It's like you're going to be really surprised when you ask them the question, when you get to know them, and you ask them, you know, hey, what do you really need? You know, what are some of the things that you could use right now? You'll be surprised what you hear." And so as we began having the conversation with people on the streets over and over again, as we're asking moms and asking dads and grandparents, you know, what do you need? Diapers kept coming up as like very high on the list. And Dan, for a while, was having diapers in the trunk of his cop car, and he'd run into people on the street and just, you know, find out what their need is, give them a box of diapers, give them a few packs of diapers. And so he reached out to me one time and said, "Nate, what do you think about providing diapers for the community? Would your church get on board with that?" I said, "Yeah, let's do that."
You might have looked out in the lobby in the gathering area when you came in. You saw a sign that said West Center City Diaper Drop. Might have saw that when you came in. I want to tell you a little bit of the background here, but in order to do that, I need a special guest to come up. Would you give a warm Brandywine welcome to Lieutenant Daniel Seligman of West Center City? Now, some of you just thought, you know, we upped our protection, you know, Todd and I sitting here in the first pew, but that's not why Dan's here. Daniel's here. I mentioned him in a sermon several weeks ago because we've been entering this partnership with West Center City to see how we can serve this family, these families and this community as a church community. And so the Lord brought our paths together. And so, Lieutenant Dan, would you tell us a little bit about why diapers? What's this whole thing about?
Sure.
Yeah.
Good morning. How are you? So I'm a bit of a storyteller, so bear with me because I'd like to tell you a story. So a few weeks ago, I was on foot patrol, as I often am in West Center City, and a woman came up to me and she said, "Lieutenant Dan, do you have any diapers?" Now, I know what you're thinking, that's sort of an odd question to ask the cop right on the beat. But see, my police car, isn't filled with what you would imagine should be in a police car. There's no SWAT gear or tools to make entry. No, there's toiletries, there's toothpaste and toothbrushes, there's diapers and wipes. And so people often come to me with their needs, and I try to provide them if I have it. And so what happens is, when you exist in poverty, when you have no money, that gets farther and farther down the list, because the first thing you have to do is you have to feed your belly. Then you have to clothe your children, you clothe yourself. In the winter, you have to put more clothes on. You have to pay rent. You have to get essentials. And so diapers keeps getting pushed further down. By providing them this basic essential need, you're saying to them, and you're telling the community that you see them. You see them in a way that is most important. And what happens is, when you are able to provide them something, and diapers is by far the most requested item, when you say to them that, "I see you," in return, they see us, and they see me. And it has been the most profound experience in my life. And I appreciate you seeing me. And now, in return, I see all of you. And so thank you so much for, you are paving a path forward. You are the first institution, first religious institution, first church that has said, "Oh yeah, we can help, and this is how we're going to do it." So I am incredibly proud of you. I am appreciative that you are now a part of this story. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
you know, one of the things I talked about, and people were like, well, did you make any changes in the police department? I said, no, because when I left, they didn't learn anything. They didn't even try to, you know, when I left, it was gone. It was like I didn't even exist here to them.
Right.
Even though we had all this success.
Yes.
And then even if I tell the story, yay, baby! Even if I tell the story,
right,
no one understands. They were like, what do you mean you never told no one what to do? You never. I said, police are going about it totally the wrong way. And at what point in our culture are we going to say, or are they going to realize that, hey, you know what? Maybe we've been wrong all these years, or maybe we should try something different. Because I'm the perfect example.
Right.
I'm glowing white out here with a white police shirt, right?
Yes.
This is the first block I came to.
Yes.
I should symbolize the thing that this community despises with good reason.
With good reason, but
yet,
we didn't. What I mean is the officers have the same problems as the hood as well.
Of course.
They do drugs. They got domestic violence. It's just hidden. But if these officers come out and start talking about it into the community, thank you. Like they're having problems as well. Then that bridge, that gap between police and see they more human as well.
Dan going back without the badge was a powerful moment. I remember talking to him before that of, am I going to be accepted? Are they going to think that I've abandoned them? Are they going to turn their backs on me? And for Dan to know that he went in there and he was still loved and he was still Lieutenant Dan even if he didn't have the badge. I think that immediately answered a question that I think he had been wondering do they really just love me for who I am? Do they accept me? Do they forgive me for who I am? You know, watching Dan struggle with these two worlds of he knows he has a job to do, to he has his duty as a police officer, and he has a duty to this community. These are people he loved. These are people he was at funerals. He was in people's homes when they went through pain and challenges, and they cried with people. He laughed with people. I mean, he was very much and is very much a part of this community.
I walked away from that experience, and you can argue what I did and what I didn't do, or how it worked or how it didn't work, but I think what I did do was I was able to show them what at least this community deserves. Like this basic, you know, fundamental support by their law enforcement. And I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, because once you realize what you should have, you realize moving forward what you don't have. And so from that point on, it was just like, well, hold on a second. Dan was able to support here. He was able to be here, and crime went down. Why can't anyone else do that? For the year and a half I was there, we had 2 shootings, 2. Compared to the year before that, I think there was like 15 plus shots fired. Everything had gone down. But there's no place that you can come to say, well, now everyone, you know, in that community knows that what they're getting is complete bullshit, and it could be better.
Unfortunately, that is what they think, you know, when they see us living here.
They've already cast a judgment on her because of the neighborhood, because of where she lives at 7th and Monroe. It's a shame, and it's also hurtful. That's when I say hurtful, that's what I mean.
I think it is because most of the people around here always have a bad experience with the police.
I think there's so much good out here. There's so much good in people. But I think people are just so sick and tired of seeing what they see. You know, cops are tired of being blamed for everything. But everybody keeps saying they're all not bad. I believe that. I definitely do believe that because of the ones I work around. But put the good ones in the cars. You know, it seems like all the bad ones are all we see. We're not seeing that cop that's playing basketball unless it's on Facebook. We're not seeing the one that's doing good when no one's watching. We're not hearing about the knocks on the doors just to see how you're doing. We're hearing about the doors being kicked into the wrong houses, the people being shot for no reason. And you know, it's so easy to put the handcuffs on somebody or lock them up because now you don't have to deal with them. You know, dealing with people on their level is a hard job. And I get it with the officers, they're short-staffed, probably long hours, low pay and all that stuff. And but it's around the world. But I say to that, you knew the job when you signed up for it. You have to be a friend to people. If you're going to be accepted on A Street as a person of integrity and honesty, before any of that can happen, you have to start the dialogue. You're missing out on that driving 50 miles an hour through these neighborhoods or not parking your car and you know, allowing yourself to let your guard down. And I don't mean let your police guard down. You know, let the textbook guard down and meet people where they are.
I feel like, you know, these amazing people have shared something really important to them, which is their story. And I'm feeling protective, you know, for them and for their stories. I feel nervous that, you know, how they'll be received. And yeah, there's a lot more responsibility I feel on my shoulders than I thought I would, because they were, you know, gifted to me. I feel like it was such a wonderful gift that someone can give you, is just their story. And then now I'm giving it to somebody else who they don't know.
I think that if people open up and realize how much the same we are, how much we have in common, you know, it opens a lot of doors when you just say hi to someone. You know, when I speak to an officer here, now I realize we have the same football team. Now I realize that we lived around the corner from each other growing up. You know what I mean? But I know that if you open that door for a conversation with me or with the people, that's the start right there. Just take the time out. Take the time out and do some good for somebody because it's free. Being nice doesn't cost a thing. It's not going to take anything out of you, you know, and it's definitely going to make you feel good at the end of the day.
You know, we've talked as friends, but I've never heard them go through, you know, what makes them who they are and their experiences, and which in a lot of ways makes me feel a lot closer to them, but so much more protective of what's about to happen now.
I was on, what street is that, Monroe, you know, where me and some of the people, we would sit out there and, you know, on a nice summer day, we would sit out there on the crates and stuff. And, you know, you have the officers, they'll get out the cars and walk down there then to move us out the way. You know, if we're sitting in front of an abandoned building, you know you're trespassing. We sitting on the sidewalk though. You come and you shun them away. You want them to move. But you never ask, why are they sitting here? Because in your mind, in this officer's mind, whoever it was that shunned them away are probably saying, oh, they're out here drinking. You know, they're probably looking like bums to them, looking like they have no life, they have nothing. You know, it's probably what them officers are looking when they see those people out there, not knowing each one of those people have a story. It's a reason why they're like that. It's a reason why they're sitting out there. You never know, you could probably help somebody if you just, you know, instead of riding around and judging, just get out of the car, talk to them. Because you probably could help them. You could probably say some encouraging words to them and it'll help them. You know, nobody thinks like that. I don't know. You know, if the police, if somebody could, I would love to do it. I promise you I would. I would talk to, maybe I do need to reach out to the chief of police. You know, I'm nobody to them. You know, I'm nobody to them. I don't even think they'll hear me. But it's a start. You want to start somewhere. Driving around is not helping. You need to physically, you have to be seen. You need to be out of your car. You need to be walking so people can see you. If they did this on a consistent basis and start reaching out to the people, things will get better. They would. I really believe they would change. I really believe they would. You can't interact with somebody just riding around or just waving when you see them. I don't know you. You don't know me. It takes everybody to do their part. Get out, find out what's going on. Talk to people, ask questions. They'll get a different outcome.
Settle down now. It's a story of a chubby little Jewish kid who sweat a lot. He existed in a world, yet remained mostly unseen, mostly unheard. This perfectly imperfect neighborhood offered him a profound gift, the gift of sight. They opened his eyes to a world unseen, a world unfair, a world forgotten. In the midst of destitution, in a place of great despair, he bore witness to great acts of compassion, acts of love, and acts of kindness. They fed his soul, renewed his hope, ignited a voice hidden deep within. Anyone who knows me knows I don't drive through this city, I walk. I walk as a sign of respect. I walk as a sign of unity. I walk because it's how we connect. My West Center City family walked here today. So after my final salute, after the receiving line ends, I'm gonna honor my commitment. I'll reciprocate that love, and I'm gonna find my own story's end. You're all welcome to join me as I walk my beautiful friends from West Center City back home. Because that's what family does.